Welcome to Grad Aid application series. So in this video, we continue the conversation on why you haven't been able to get into any of the graduate programs you applied into. So in the previous video, we did say that one of the reasons could be that you are not a good fit or you haven't been a good fit for any of the programs you applied into. So in this video, we will focus our attention on how GPAs impact our ability to get into graduate programs. Now, before I continue the conversation, I welcome you to follow us on our social media handles. It's GradAid_consult on Instagram or Grad Aid Consult on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Now, back to the topic. So the big question is, what is a GPA? A GPA is grade point average. And this is a number that indicates how high or low you scored on your courses on average. And so what it means is that the reviewer doesn't need to grant an interview with you to be able to have an appreciation of your performance in school. They just need your transcript with a GPA on it, and that would suffice. And so generally, a good GPA is one that ranges between 3.0 and 4.0, and a low GPA is one that falls below 2.0. Now, so if you have a low GPA, you have no business whatsoever applying into a graduate program that has a GPA cutoff of 3.0. Please do not apply to such programs. What you should be doing is that look for a program that has a GPA cutoff point of 2.0. So generally, many universities will give you a hard time if your GPA falls below 2.0. However, you will be glad to hear that there are some schools that would still accept a lower GPA into their graduate programs. But what it means is that you have to do a lot of digging. You have to do a lot of research to be able to identify those schools. And so to answer our question about should a student with a low GPA give up on graduate study? Certainly no. It just means that you have to put in a lot more work to be able to identify those schools that you would fit in. So some of the things that you would want to consider doing if you have a low GPA is to apply to a community college. Usually community colleges would not penalize you for a low GPA. And most of the applicants that apply into a community college are those who are actually struggling with their GPAs. And so you'll be more competitive in community colleges as opposed to getting into a main university. So I definitely would encourage you to add community colleges to your options if you have a low GPA. Another thing you can consider doing is to sponsor your own education. So most graduate schools would deny you admission because they are operating on limited funds. And so if you're applying into a program and you have a low GPA, it means that you are competing with people with higher GPAs, and the department would prefer to appropriate that fund to their competitive applicants, which obviously you wouldn't fall within. And so during the application process, usually you are asked whether you want to be considered for funding. Do not take that box. Because if you take that box and the university doesn't have the means to fund your education, it means that they will not give you the admission. And so if you have money and you can fund your education, do not go for that option. By so doing, you increase your chances of getting into a program because the department knows that you are not their responsibility. So take note of that. If you have funds and you can fund your education, do not take the box that says that you need funding from the department. You stand greater chance of getting into the program if you do not take that box. Then There's another option. If age is on your side, the option is there or available for you to better your grades. If you have that, you have age on your side, then you definitely want to explore this other option. There's nothing like applying to school with a good GPA and getting to enjoy all the benefits that comes to it. It also makes the application process less stressful so that you don't have to be doing a lot more research than you are supposed to do, because these schools that would take lower GPAs are minimal. And so it means more work, more hours behind the PC trying to figure out which schools would accept you. So if you have the option to go back and get better grades, please do so. I would definitely encourage you to do so. Then last but not the least is applying to the Scandinavian schools. I mean, this point, it can never be overemphasized, and especially the Swedish schools. They are most interested in whether or not you have a degree. And so if you have a degree, that is just enough for them. And so definitely want to keep an eye out for these Scandinavian schools, and specifically the Swedish schools. And the most interesting part of it is that the Swedish government have funding for people who are able to get into these schools, and their funding package is very, very exciting. It comes with an air flight, tuition waiver, monthly stipend, health insurance. So you definitely want to explore that if you do have a very low GPA. So in this video, we have talked about how GPAs have impacted or impact your ability to get into a graduate program. And we've said that if you have a low GPA, please do not apply to universities that are requesting for a 3.0 as the minimum cutoff point. But we've also said that a low GPA doesn't preclude you from applying into graduate programs. What it means is that you have to do a lot more digging, a lot more research to be able to identify those schools that will still take on people with low GPA. And we have said that you can also explore the option of applying into a community college. They are more flexible with GPAs. We've also talked about being your own sponsor. If you have your own money and you are able to sponsor yourself, you are more likely to get into a graduate program. There are a ton of schools in the UK, in Europe that would grant you admission, provided you are able to foot your own bills. And we've said that if you have the option or you are within ages on your side, then better your grades. There's nothing like going through the application process with so much ease. The process itself is tedious. And if your grades or your GPA is low, it adds another layer of difficulty to your whole process, because it means you have to spend a lot more time trying to search for schools that will fit into your GPA. Then we've talked about the possibility of checking with Scandinavian schools, and I've said particularly Swedish schools, because they are more interested in whether or not you have a degree than the GPA. And beyond that, the Swedish government also offers funding for persons who are able to get into the Swedish programs. And the funding package is very, very exciting because it comes with free airfare ticket, stipends, tuition waiver, and all the goodies that you can imagine about getting into a program which is fully funded. So I hope this has been helpful. We will come your way in the next video, continuing the conversation on why you haven't been able to get into any graduate program. Bye-bye.